Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your busy days to join us for this pop-up information session. I'm really excited about this class. This is a class that we have been doing a version of with our consulting clients for 3 years. It's one of the most requested classes for a general audience, and so I'm very happy to be bringing it to a general audience for the first time. Visualizing Head Start data in Excel is the class that we're talking about. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Greg Dixon. I'm our Chief Learning Officer, and also I'm the lead instructor for this class. So I will be managing this class and facilitating all of the work of the different folks who take it. So the biggest thing with visualizing Head Start data in Excel is this is an introductory class for visualizing data in Excel. It's the starter class. It's the class for people who use Excel, but use Excel like a lot of people do, just at the most entry level possible. So this is to get started with using Excel as a visualization tool. So in Head Start, every day throughout your whole organization, everybody is working to make the lives of children and families better. And you're interacting with an enormous amount of data while you do that. But day to day, most of what you're doing isn't necessarily data. You're doing a lot of activities, gathering data, using data. A lot of that is compliance oriented, and you are following the rules that you need to this time of year with 30-day, 60-day, 45-day, 90-day mandate periods that you have to make sure that you do everything you're supposed to do. All that data is being gathered in. But what most people are doing every day isn't gathering data. They're helping children and families. But how do you tell that story? How do you tell the story of all the hard work they're doing with compelling stories backed by concrete data that can put that exclamation point on it? And that is what this class is all about. And once again, I'm excited about this class because it's one of the ones that I get to teach. And this is a class that is really that entry level gateway into being able to use Excel for new and interesting things and engaging staff members with data in ways that let them use data as a powerful tool to make the lives of children and families better. So data visualization is one of the most important things that we can do to empower people across organizations to use data. When you get raw data, it tends to be just numbers and information and columns. It's not that you can't use it, it's just challenging, partly because of the brain having to process it all, partly because it's not in a great format for telling stories. It's complicated, it's detailed, it's just not awesome. What this class is about is transforming that raw data into simple, compelling visual representations of the data that can be used by lots of different people to address simple things. So translating that big, messy data set into nice, clean visual representations that can help you communicate and tell your stories more effectively. That's to any audience, internally, to staff, to families, to communicating to boards, reviewers, everybody across the board. So data visualization will help you to use data effectively to tell the stories of all of your program's successes. So we get a lot of people with classes like this saying, well, who should take this class? This class is for anybody. Anybody on your staff that interacts with data can benefit from this class. This is a class about learning to understand visualizing information and how to take the basic steps from all that raw report information you get and to creating visuals that can be addressed and engaged with by anybody. We did get some questions about this that I do want to tackle right here while I have this slide on the screen. Programs that aren't just Head Start, so community action programs, county offices of education. We have had the question of, could someone who's not a Head Start person take this class? And my answer to that is yes, but the Excel skills are all standard. This is essentially a standard introduction to data visualization in Excel class. So the skills that you are learning are universal, but all of our examples and all of the things we're going to be discussing about in the non-Excel parts of it are going to use Head Start examples. So when we talk about where you go to get the data, we're going to be talking about Child Plus. We're going to be talking about COPA. We're going to be talking about Go Engage. We're going to be talking about Smart Teach. These are the kinds of things that are going to be Head Start specific. So yes, the skills are general and anybody could take this class and benefit from it, but these are going to be Head Start specific examples. So when we talk about attendance data, health event data, how to get data out of your platforms, the examples are going to be in Head Start platforms. So if somebody's working with different software platforms, they'll have to be able to make that mental translation. But the Excel skills and the practice sets, anybody can learn how to do this from those. So what exactly is all that stuff that I'm saying this class is going to cover? The first two modules are about how to explore, think about the information, and make sure that you're ready to actually put it into the charts and graphs. Make sure that the data is ready and in a format you can use. So the first module is the basics of Excel. How does Excel work? What is Excel doing when you're trying to create visualizations with it? And then thinking visually about data. When you are building a data visualization, you're not starting with, I can build a column chart. You're starting with, I have a story that I want to tell in the most effective way. And one of the things we'll talk about is the choice of what you're going to do for a data visualization is based on what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish and who your audience is going to be. And we will introduce the idea of simplifying and making the data fit your specific purpose in that first module. And one of the big things we are going to do in the first module is we're going to give you a worksheet and build a framework of figuring out what data you need to actually do that. How do I know what specific information I need to get in order to build the visual I need to do? And we have a worksheet that will help you with that. The second module is about how to get the data out of your various platforms. We're going to spend time on Child Plus, COPA, Smart Teach, all those different platforms, and talk about what it is to actually go get that data. Simple things like, what filter parameters do I use when I run this report to make sure that I'm getting consistent data every single time? And how do I document that so that it's not just I know that, but anybody else who's trying to look at this could see exactly which data this is. What sites does it cover? What months does it cover, et cetera. And we're going to also talk about when you run into a situation where you cannot necessarily get the information you want in the format you want, how do you go to the platforms and ask them for help? If you've never built a live report before in Child Plus, how do you get them to help with that? If you're a COPA user, how do you get an export that looks like you want it to look? Those kind of things. The final two modules are all about building things and then using those for storytelling. So the third module is basic visualization. So we're going to go over different chart types and we're going to talk about how to use those charts for storytelling. So a lot of what we're going to do is say, this is a column chart, but now how do I make this column chart look like I need it to look to tell my story? So we're going to talk about how to simplify visualizations, how to use labeling. When is it that you want to take it out of Excel as a screenshot so you can make better annotations, all that kind of stuff. Finally, in Module 4, you're going to build pivot tables and charts. This is a really powerful tool in Microsoft Excel that allows you to do a lot of things with data that really can help people to see the data, to be able to build filters, things like that. We're going to talk about how you do all of those things. And most importantly, in these last two modules, there are practice sets that you will actually work on where you will build these using data that we provide. We're going to provide two kinds of sample data for you. One is attendance data, and the other is data on health events, things like physicals, lead screenings, things like that. You will have full video walkthroughs that show you step by step how to build the visualizations we're discussing. How do I build a pie chart? How do I put data labels on my pie chart? What is a column chart? Why would I use that instead of a bar chart? What kinds of labels are there? What do I want to do? You are going to actually practice that with a practice data set that we've shared with you. And there's a full video walkthrough of every single step. There's also a PDF document that shows screenshots of all those steps with some narrative elements there. So if you're a visual learner and you want to have the video and you want to see it as it happens, you've got that. You can slow it down, you can rewind it, you can actually run it while you are doing the practice sets. It makes it easy for you to learn how to build these things in practice. And because we're offering CEUs, one of the things is we do have learning checks on these things. So you will submit the practice sets that you're doing in the Canvas learning management system, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So you will have the opportunity not just to see, oh, this is something that I could build. You're actually going to build real Excel visualizations in this class in the last 2 weeks with complete support. So the course materials you'll get, there's a course workbook, summary of the course, lots of different things there. It has some worksheets for that preparation stage, those things we're going to do in the very beginning of the class. An inventory of what data you're going to need in order to tell the story, some discussions of how do you know that that data actually is accurate. How can you tell sometimes whether or not there's some issues with data quality, and what do you do when that happens? Those kind of things are going to be covered in the course workbook, and we've got some really nice tools in there that have worked really well for the last 3 years of us working on this class to get that so that you've got a system to it. So even if it's a new thing for you, you have some tools that you can use as a foundation. We have the Canvas learning management system. So everybody who is in this class is going to be given access to Canvas, and you're going to have detailed walkthroughs, videos that run through all of the practice sets we just talked about. The detailed PDF walkthroughs will be there as well as comma separated values files, which is just raw data export files that we've built that are anonymous. They look like real Head Start data, but they're not real kids, so that we can share them around and use them in the class. And you're going to use those to actually build everything. The other thing that we're going to include is documentation for those practice data sets. So if you want to build the same export that our data set is based on in your platforms, you can do that. Now, for the class, you can't use your program data because there's a bunch of privacy reasons for that. But if what you want to do is you do the practice set, and then you want to pull an export from your program and use your program's data to practice for yourself, you will have the tools that allow you to do that as well. And there's an easy place to submit all the practice files to get credit and get the CEUs at the end. So this class is mostly online. There's a lot of challenges sometimes that can come along with that, especially if you get stuck. So we have office hours. If you run into any issues, you have any questions, or if there's this thing that you've always wanted to do in your program and it's not quite what you're learning here, there's additional steps, or the data looks a little different, or you want to use a different kind of chart. Office hours are what Office hours are there to help you for that, basically. It's what you want to turn to get answers to those kinds of questions. It's a free-for-all. You can basically ask me whatever you want to. It can be class-related, and a lot of times where people do get stuck on some of the practice assignments, this is the place that you can get that work taken care of. But also, you do have the opportunity to ask other questions. A lot of people are doing interesting things in their programs, and we can't cover every possible thing in our practice set. So if you're thinking about something and you want to say, well, how do I take this next step? That's what office hours are for. So as an individual person, there's a lot of benefits from this course. One of the biggest is that you're going to have a lot more confidence in your ability to tell your story with this added impact of being able to back things up with data. We are going to talk about how to engage different audiences, so you'll be confident in front of any audience you get called on to go stand in front of. This class is about practical things you can use immediately. You will use things from the first week, the minute the first week is over. So you'll be using the skills you learn in this class before the class is even done. One of the other things we really want to emphasize is that you're visualizing data because you are going to be working with other people and empowering them to use that data as well, so that your program can use data to help improve the lives of children and families. For programs, one of the biggest advantages here is better communication of the impact. You have a ton of compliance information already built in with all the standard reports in your platforms, but compliance is compliance. You want to tell compelling stories about the impact that you have in the community. This is a great way to get started with that. It also helps support decision making. Visualizing data makes it accessible to more people. You can bring in a more inclusive team to talk about what's happening, how can you make changes, what things can you do to better support children and families. Other part is all Head Start programs across the country have to do more with less right now. There's a lot of challenges everybody's facing. Having the ability to do this data visualization work in-house with lots of different people to cover the simple stuff without having to go to get outside help is an added value. Also, one of the big things we emphasize all the time is creating a culture around using data as a tool for making the lives of children and families better. And creating a culture of shared understanding around data as a tool is a big benefit. The more people are familiar with, comfortable with, and engage with data, the better it is for the program as a whole. nuts and bolts logistics. This is a 4-week course. Each week, there's one meeting, and the meetings are 2 hours long. Outside of class, we estimate that you have about 2 hours of outside of class work. Most of that is in the last 2 weeks, weeks 3 and 4, because that's when you're going to be actually practicing in Excel. I will also say that if you get real fired up with this, it might be more than 2 hours of work out of class because you get excited. You want to try different things. You want to do extensions. You want to use your own program's data in the examples. But what it takes to actually successfully complete this class is about 2 hours of work outside of class. And the class costs $599 per individual participant. So this is a good, engaging program. It's manageable in the time that you have. The meetings that we have in person are all designed to walk through implementation, to teach things that you can go back and use immediately. So you'll be doing a data inventory and looking through your Child Plus reports to find where the information is right after week 1. You'll be thinking about, hey, did I need to do anything else? How do I translate this export from Child Plus into something I can use in Excel right after week 2? And you'll be building charts in weeks 3 and 4, and particularly once you start getting used to pivot tables and pivot charts, they're a fantastic tool. You'll find you're using it all the time. Everything about this class is practical, and you're going to use it right away. The class includes 1 IACET continuing education unit and 10 professional development hours. There's also a digital credential. So if you need to share this with the folks in your program in order to show that you've completed it, you'll be able to just forward the digital credential to them. They can see that you completed the course. All the different pieces are there, and the digital credential information includes the CEU and professional development hours with it. So nice and handy, all these neat modern tools that we have. That's me. I'm a little past my 15-minute line, but if this sounds really cool to you and you're really fired up about this, go down to acornlearning.com and register for this class. It's in the camps section because we didn't really have an easy place for this class. It's a little different than some of the other ones that we do. So it's in with the camps, but it's visualizing Head Start data in Excel. And it is an excellent way to get started. And it's a good way for people who are familiar with Excel, but just barely, to get into some more advanced kinds of things. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us. Time is one of the most valuable things any of us have in any day. There's a lot going on in Head Start right now. It's that time of year, and there's other craziness on the side. So it's a very exciting time. But I do want to say thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute and ask. And the recording will stop here for those of you who are on YouTube.